Alright, the new clean water rule. Everyone needs to drink water every day to survive, but do you know how that water is being protected? This presentation will inform you on how the U.S. protects our bodies of water. This is something that's important to me because I am a native of Great Bend, Kansas, which is home to two wetlands, Cheyenne Bottoms and Quivira Bottoms as well. And also I consume water every day, just like everybody else. So it's really important to me to know who's protecting that water and to make sure that it's going to still be there. After listening, you'll be able to discuss the recent changes to the laws protecting our bodies of water in the United States. So as a preview, I'll start out talking about the history of water protection in the U.S., some of the original laws and how those were changed in the past. And then I'll move on to the recent amendment to these laws that actually were just at the beginning of this year, and then what those changes mean moving forward. The Federal Water Pollution Control Act of 1948 was the first law in the U.S. that was governing the pollution of our bodies of water. If you're familiar with history at all, 1948 is during World War II, and it's kind of the Industrial Revolution. We started making things on a lot larger scale, and that means there's a lot of companies that have a lot of waste. So we needed to make sure that people are doing that responsibly and taking care of our environment. It was amended in 1972 and switched from the Federal Water Pollution Control Act to the Clean Water Act. And then it kind of changed up how they regulate pollutants. It gave the EPA authority to implement pollution control, which was new, and it made it unlawful for any person to discharge pollutants into what they consider navigable waters, which they defined very narrowly within the Clean Water Act. Then in 2015, Clean Water Rule was in 2015, and that was an amendment to how they classify those different bodies of water. So January 23rd of 2020 this year, the Navigable Water Protection Rule was implemented, which again basically just reclassified how they define different bodies of water. It basically overrode the 2015 Clean Water Rule. It basically breaks down the jurisdictional water into 4 different categories, which are the territorial seas, perennial and intermittent tributaries, lakes, ponds, and impoundments that contribute to surface flow, and then wetlands. What these changes mean to you. It means that they scale back federal jurisdiction of pollution control protection, which means that a lot of this protection goes from being federally regulated to going to the state level, and then the states can decide on their own definitions. So basically what I covered today was the history of the water protection, the new rule and what it is and how that changes things. And then there's more details that can be found on the Federal Register. Actually, you can go in and you can look at the actual docket, and you can read the law word for word, and kind of form your own opinions on how you think our government's doing. I hope that this presentation was informative, and I would challenge you to do some research on your own in order to stay to date on this very important topic. Obviously, we all consume water every day, and I think it's our responsibility as a society to look out for our current generation and the ones beyond us and make sure that they have the same luxuries that we do. As Americans, there's very few people that have ever had to think about clean water because it's just always there. It's always present. But if we don't do a good job of protecting these waters, then that won't be the case in the future. So we need to stay up to date and stay informed, and I think that's very important. Thank you, guys. This is a bibliography of my sources that I used. You can get a lot of information out of these if you want to look and be a little bit more in depth. Thanks.